what does this account mean? Well, this means recently there was a law passed that allocates $1 billion in the budget for approximately 90,000 students in the state of Texas. This is a program that families will be able to apply for come January. Now, while $1 billion sounds great in your bank account and in my bank account, $1 billion for the entire state of Texas won't cover it. Again, it's only going to cover 90,000 students. So what does that mean for our families and for us? Well, that means that because there is going to be more demand than there is funding, there will be a lottery. And again, the application is set to open in January. And so what we're going to do is prepare you the very best so that when the application does open up, you are one of the first to apply, upload your documents, and if you need any assistance, we will go ahead and assist you with an application workshop around that time. Again, not a voucher, but it covers much more. So what funding amounts does this cover? How much are we talking here? Well, there are specific tiers, and that first tier is for families with students who have special needs. And that amount can be up to $30,000. Now, that is a year. So that one student that qualifies under that category, and also the family meets those economic guidelines, which I'll show you in just a moment, that is the amount that that student could receive for tuition, fees, any assessments that they need, any additional therapies, and again, we'll touch on that in just a moment. Now, there are 3 other tiers after that. And for those tiers, I want you to think of that 85% of the amount that typically would have followed that student into a public school will now come with that student. And that amount is up to $10,000. I have seen a range of numbers thrown out there, and as you saw in the very beginning, there's a lot of information out there right now about ESAs. And so what we're doing is we're preparing families for that lowest number that I've seen, which is 10,000, but it could be much more once those rules are finalized. But to just have a basis, expect 10. This also covers any homeschooled students. And so if a student who is homeschooled wants to apply for this, they could receive, if selected, $2,000 to use towards their education at home. I mentioned there will be other costs that are covered under the education savings account here in our Catholic schools. And so there's tuition, there's fees, there's also the purchase of any instructional materials that the student needs to get, even uniforms as well. Any fees for the classes provided by any type of public school, as well as the cost to any academic related assessments. So again, as you can see, this is covering much more than tuition and fees. This is going to cover about 2 more slides worth of information. Now, if your student has a private tutor, this also could be covered by the education savings account. Any teaching service as well, any fees for transportation that your student may need to take to get to school, that would also be covered. And so this is where I really tap on those rural cities those rural towns around San Antonio that if, let's say there's a group of them that get together and they have a bus, they charter a bus to get their students to school, should that provider be an ESA approved provider, the amount received through the ESA could cover those costs. And so that's a really big deal. Also, any educational therapies that the student would need that's not covered by the government or any insurance, any private insurance, that could also be covered under ESA. Any cost for a computer hardware or software that's needed for your student, that it's prescribed by a provider or physician, that could also be covered under ESA, as well as, like I mentioned, breakfast or lunch. So as you can see, much more than vouchers, this could really change the lives of a lot of families. Now, it's also important to us for you to know how to strategically use this money. And so in the springtime, what we would all like to do is offer any sessions for those families that did get accepted to show them how to strategically use those funds. And you'll see why in just a minute. Now, priority groups. We were talking about this, and this is normally a really big hit with all the families because it breaks down what tier you get put into. So as I mentioned, that first tier is for students who have, for families that have a student with a disability. Now, the example we have on here is a family of 4. And so if you're a family of 4 and you make less than or equal to $160,000, then you would qualify under that first category. Second category are for families whose income falls equal to or less than, again, for a family of 4, $64,300. Third category is for families whose income falls between $64,000 and $160,000. And that final tier are for families who make $160,000 or more. So as you can see, many people will qualify under any specific group. Now, something that's really important to note is, let's say you have 2 students in your household that you want to enroll with ESAs. If one student gets selected, they were in that first priority group. And then your other student, the sibling, is, let's say they fall in the third group. They all come as a package deal. The government, Texas, does not want to separate families. They want to make sure that brothers and sisters, siblings stay together. And so again, that is a package deal. Something else that's very, very convenient about ESAs is that you do not have to reapply every year. Think of the time spent using, filling out an application again. This would not be an issue for you should you get selected. Now, should you not get selected, the other side of the coin, you can always reapply next year. But if you do get selected, all you have to do is confirm that you will be using it the following year. So, what does this mean? What opportunity does this provide for us? Well, I think we can all remember a time where our Catholic schools were very, very full. They were bursting at the seams because we had many students in our classrooms. Now, like many families, it's been difficult for families to be able to juggle the costs of Catholic school and just normal daily life. And so ESAs are really paving a road for all of us to have that relief. For our current families to get that relief because they have been putting in the time, the money, the work, all these years. And then for those prospective families who haven't had this opportunity because of those barriers. So it really puts us back to being that neighborhood school that we once were. And what we hope is that when we fill our schools, we fill our parish as well. Now, anticipated guide timelines. And so this is where I mentioned earlier that the comptroller recently let us know that they've already selected someone to be the platform for ESAs. And so here we can look at where we are. The rules were published August 27. Those were proposed rules. What does that mean? That means they put them out for us. They gave us 30 days to have a comment period and send our comments back. And believe me, I had many. And so I wanted clarification on a few of the things that are listed. And so we're waiting to hear back from the comptroller about what those finalized rules look like. But at the Archdiocese, within our schools, we feel comfortable building on these proposed rules and giving you the heads up of what this program can do and what it's going to require of you. Now, August 31st, that's when they were expecting a contract signed vendor to come on board. That is the vendor that I mentioned earlier. And so they've already selected someone, they've announced it, and as you can see, we're moving on through this timeline. In October, November, a provider list will be developed. What does that mean for you? Well, it doesn't mean much for you, but what it means for us, for the schools, is whatever vendor we are using, whether it's Flynn O'Hara for the uniforms or Crave It for catering, those vendors need to get on this approved ESA vendor list so that when we get those funds, we can use those funds to pay off whatever we deem necessary that is approved. Think of it like an HSA account. So you go in, you log in, and you can choose where your money is going. January, like I mentioned, applications will be open for our families. We do not have the date just yet, and so please sit tight, but we will be letting you know as soon as we know so that we can begin preparing for those application workshops, like I mentioned. And then they say that in February, we will know, families will be notified about who received ESAs. I struggle with that because it's very soon after the application opens, but I have faith also that they will let us know as soon as they have those results. And so we can expect February 10th. Now, how does ESA affect our current families? Well, this is letting us know that it's going to affect our capacity, our availability. And so we want our families to apply early, to not wait, to not hesitate. If there's questions, reach out to me, reach out to Sister Barbara or Miss Nancy. We have a whole team here that is ready to assist you with your questions. Now, because we're working on proposed rules, I always recommend that when there is a question that's a little bit in the weeds, then we work on it and you send me an email and we follow up with you. ESA funding, again, is going to impact our classrooms, our capacity. And what I have wanted to tell our current families is that this means that we are inviting new families that their mission is aligned with ours. This does not necessarily mean that we are going to stuff our classrooms like sardines, because that's not fair to you, that's not fair to our students, that's not fair to Sister Barbara or our teachers. And so again, we are keeping in mind that this rollout will be paced out. This does not mean that the doors are wide open and our classrooms will lose what our culture has built this entire time. Re-enrollment, I just talked to Sister Barbara and we're looking at re-enrollment for you guys in December. Again, we want you to secure your spot right away. And then for any new families, we're looking at a January timeframe for applications for next year. The Education Savings Account or the Freedom Account will be for the year 26-27, but we are applying a whole 6 months earlier. So just keep that in mind. Now, what are the next steps? Well, I have seen so many of you already come in through my system, but for those of you that have not filled out an inquiry form, please do me the favor of filling this out. Also in the digital forms or any paperwork documents that you may have received in person, the QR code will also be listed there. This is where we will be communicating with you, letting you know about what's coming and any ESA updates. And so you filling that out would be very, very helpful. And I'll leave it up for a little bit. Alrighty, and if anyone is still struggling, what I can do is when we have our question session, I can go back to this page and leave it up for you. So, that was my last slide. Like I mentioned, anything that you need from me, please feel free to reach out to me. Enroll at rhsa.org. I really do appreciate your time with me because, again, I know what this means for our families. I know this is something else you're adding to your day. And so, again, many, many thanks and appreciation for you for being here and wanting to get educated on this new program. This will conclude my presentation, but if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to join me here in the middle and ask the question on that beautiful yellow microphone.